Karen, thank you very much. I need to make sure I'm addressing you correctly. Are you comfortable with Karen?
Karen is absolutely fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to do this. It's great for us, it's great for our profile, so we do appreciate it. So thank you very much for coming down to...
It's a pleasure to be able to help Leek Town, it really is.
Wonderful. I suppose we'll start off. How long have you been involved in politics? Very general.
Oh, very general. Well, the first time I stood for anything political was the 2005 general election. I stood in Manchester Withington, but I was selected for the seat for the Staffordshire Mourners, which is my home seat. I was born in Cheddleton, and I was selected in 2006. So it's 10 years that I've been campaigning hard in the Moorlands.
And obviously now an MP, that's a high profile position. Responsibility that comes with that. How does that feel?
Oh, it's very humbling, actually. I mean, the humbling thing is that people bother to go out and vote for you, and actually, at the 2015 general election, to see my majority go up compared to 2010 by about 50%, and over half the people who voted for me. That's really humbling.
Now I need to read this to make sure I get it correctly, but you've recently been summoned to number 10 Downing Street.
I like to think more invited than summoned.
That's how I read it on the internet, so I've used the same word. Offered obviously the job Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, a place on the cabinet. That's pretty high profile. As high profile as you get, I think. Did you see that coming, and do you find it daunting?
Well, I mean, it's the most incredible privilege. It really is. Did I see it coming? No. I mean, the one thing about politics is, I don't know. I remember when I used to work in accounting, and you'd sit there and do your appraisal, and it was, what's your 5-year plan? There's no 5-year plan in politics. You've just got to take opportunities when they come. And 2.5 years before that, I'd been in the whip's office, and I thought was going to be a whip for a bit longer. And then I got a phone call from the then Prime Minister, David Cameron. I was actually in Biddulph at National Libraries Day. And the phone rang, and it was, could I join the Home Office? And, you really don't know it's coming at all. And then I've been there for 2.5 years, and now my previous boss, the old Home Secretary, is now the Prime Minister, and so there was a big shake-up of the cabinet. But no, did I know it's coming? No, you have no idea. My phone call came at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was appointed at 3:45. So wow. It really is something that comes a bit out of the blue. Is it daunting? Of course it is. I'm the first. I think someone said I'm the first Moorlands MP to be on the cabinet. Not the first from North Staffordshire, but the first in the Moorlands, and I've got a whole department that are relying on me to make the right decisions and to do the best for all the sectors I represent. And but it's such an opportunity, to make sure the Moorlands is heard about at cabinet, make sure that the Moorlands voice is heard across the country. It's a real opportunity.
I suppose the obvious question, I guess you've had this a few times, I guess it's a national position as well. Can that take away sort of local issues? I guess people might be a bit concerned that, obviously it's such a high-profile national position. Could that distract you from local issues? And what would you say to people that might throw that at you? Well,
I mean, I'm absolutely determined that won't be the case. And I have been a minister for 4 years nearly now. And I've always been very clear, that there are certain times of the week that are absolutely devoted 100% to constituency, and constituency stuff is there in my ministerial job as well. And I've always made sure that I've got Fridays, which frankly is the only day most of the time you can be in the constituency here, because this is home. This is where I live. I don't want to be anywhere else. So it's been great and while there are national things I need to do and international things, so there is an obligation on me to do things like go to the Olympics, which I've got to do this week. I'm going off to Rio, and the Paralympics,
wow.
Which I wouldn't have done as a minister in my old job, but I think that actually to be on that international stage, it's really important for Britain we're there, because we've got to make sure people know that Britain is here and we're open for business and we want to work with them. So a lot of my time next week is going to be meeting officials from Brazil, meeting other people to try and get, a really good profile for Britain, but also for the Moorlands.
That's amazing. I'd love to be going to Rio next week, but quite envious there.
Most people are, actually.
Yeah. I've got to say. Now I'm going to bounce around with some questions. I'm going to throw in some general ones while I'm at it. I've got to take the opportunity. If I was to ask, say, something negative about Leek, what would you say?
Well, It's really difficult to think of anything negative about home, isn't it? But do you know the thing that the most annoying thing are birds. Right, this is going to sound a bit weird, but I rent a little flat in London, and 4 days a week I'm woken to the noise of the trains leaving Paddington Station because I can hear it, and the Westway, the A40, and I go flipping. Why wake me up at that time? And then I get back home and the birds wake me up. So that's a bit bad, isn't it?
Fair enough. Music. What's your favourite band?
Oh, anyone who knows me knows it's Duran Duran. Has been for 30 years.
Yeah, that's all right. That is.
I am. Yeah, I was a child of the 80s.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
And I went to see them in Manchester just before Christmas. I still love Duran Duran. They can do no wrong in my eyes.
Hobbies. How would you relax away from?
Well, do you know, I've now discovered that everything I did to relax is now part of my job. So we love walking in the hills, and that's something we really focus on participation in sports. I love going to the theatre, the cinema, though I don't think I've had enough time to do it recently, but now I'm getting a bit more time. I also love cooking. I really enjoy trying out new recipes and things like that, and and socialising, being with friends and family, and being at home is just fantastic to be able to do that.
Answered that one. Leak Time TV, have you ever seen anything?
I have to confess I haven't done yet, but I absolutely promise you that I will watch it.
Okay, I'm just going through my questions quite well here. I read with interest that you're able to use your new role to encourage more tourists to visit Staffordshire and increase participation in sport. How do you plan to do that?
Well, I think it's getting people to know what we've got going on in Staffordshire. So I've always felt really frustrated that actually we've got one of the biggest tourist attractions in the country, in Alton Towers, and yet people don't realise they're in Staffordshire. And then we've got the Peak District just on our doorstep. In fact, a third of the Staffordshire Moorlands constituency is in the Peak Park, but people think they're still in Derbyshire. And that's really frustrating because we've got the best bits of the Peak District, and we've got the Churnet Valley. We've got all this history and heritage. And people come to Moorlands and they walk here and they participate in sport, but they don't actually know they're here. So it's about shouting loud and proud that we've got this. And I'm off actually this afternoon up to the Caravan Club on Blackshire Moor, which I'm going to because of my ministerial portfolio, but it's in my constituency. People come caravanning here, and it's great that they can actually, put their caravan, bring their caravan, and then they can walk into Leek, they can get to the Three Horseshoes with great facilities there, down to Tittersworth, up the Roaches. There's all sorts of things they can do. We just need them to know they're in Staffordshire. So lots of work to do, lots of working across the whole area as well. It's not just about Staffordshire. I want to grab people who've landed at Manchester Airport. I want to grab people in Macclesfield. I want to grab people who come to Bakewell. So why don't you come over to Leek? Why don't you come and see what we've got? Come to Biddulph, look at Biddulph Grange Gardens. There's some fantastic things we've got in the Moorlands. We just need to shout about them. Quite
agree. Must mention the recent referendum. It's been done to death. I'm sure you might even be bored of discussing it. Obviously you were part of the Remain campaign. I suppose a couple of things. Do you feel it might, or do you feel it has affected your credibility at all, given the fact that obviously the outcome was not what you campaigned for? And if someone was to question your leadership, how would you feel about that? Because I guess these have been things that have been said since. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, the first thing I'd say is I, on balance, felt that we would be better. I've always said Britain will be great whether we're in or out, but on balance, and this was very finely on balance, I can see lots of bad things about the EU, don't worry, I was no great Europhile who thought there was nothing wrong there, but on balance I felt that actually we had more opportunities in than out. But that doesn't mean we don't have opportunities, we've just got to work harder at them, and I think that's the thing for me, that people, lots of people have said to me, all the grants will stop and everything. Well, maybe we didn't like the way Europe spent the money. Maybe we want to spend the money differently. Oh, it'll be awful about, whether we'll be able to travel or not. Well, people have said really clearly that they want things to change, and so we have to look really hard at that. But that's one of the reasons I'm going to Brazil, because Brazil's not in the European Union, and I want to make sure that people in Brazil don't think this is a vote that says we've closed our door, because I don't think anybody who voted Leave did so because they wanted to close the doors. They wanted to be more open and outward, away from Europe, and I completely understand that. So, we're all leavers now. I fully appreciate and respect the vote. I don't think people voted for the wrong reasons. I think they voted for very good reasons, a lot of which I had enormous sympathy with. And I'm now absolutely determined to make sure that we get the very, very best deal we can for Britain. And, you know, as one of those people who worked with Theresa May to negotiate with Europe on justice and home affairs matters, and having been in those meetings and said no to Europe already, I know full well that I and the Prime Minister are more than capable of saying no and getting the very best deal we possibly can. But people will have to accept that means things will change, because people have voted really loudly that they want things to change. And I know people are very uncomfortable with change. It makes people feel nervous. But, you know, we've got to make it change for the better.
Theresa May, you mentioned Theresa May, obviously the Prime Minister. What's she like?
Oh, she's fantastic. Definitely the best woman. The best person, I'm not even going to say woman, the best person to lead the country. You know, this is somebody who has been a politician, although she had a life before politics, but a politician for years. She's been through as a shadow through lots of different departments. She's been the Home Secretary for 6 years. I mean, just an astonishing achievement to have stayed in that department for that long and to have transformed things. This is the woman who, when Europe said, no, you can't deport Abu Qatada, got on a plane to Jordan, got a treaty sorted out, got him out of the country. This is the woman who said no to the Americans when they wanted to deport Gary McKinnon. This is the woman who said no to the Europeans when they wanted us to have public prosecution offices that were run from Europe. You know, this is a woman who's not scared to stand up for Britain, and she's going to do her very, very best for us. She's great.
Do you have a mobile number?
That would be telling.
Thanks, very good answer. I'll move on. I'll go back to football a little bit. Man United, they recently, or they have, should I say, spent nearly £100 million on one player, Paul Pogba. Now, I look at that and I think that's obscene. That's an obscene amount of money. Then obviously we have Leek Town here, a community club that we have to fundraise just to survive. If that is regulated in any way, just a fraction of that money, if it went into grassroots, if it went into community clubs like this could prosper, it could make life easier. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think that is just obscene.
Well, I mean, the sums of money are eye-boggling, and it's impossible to imagine what that really is. And I think that there's some real issues about young players as well getting, having access to that sort of wealth at that age and what it can do to them. But the Premier League is the biggest sports franchise in the world, and the Premier League has the opportunity to do a lot of good. And I work closely with the Premier League. The Premier League actually is the funders behind the Football Foundation that helped to give Leek Town the new pitch. Actually it does get down to the grassroots. It feels hard, and I want to make it easier to get that money to get down to grassroots and to get to clubs like Leek Town and our other local clubs. But we also need to, I used to do slavery in my old job at the Home Office, and the Premier League are doing fantastic work globally to go out and say to young boys in Nigeria, don't believe that you're going to come to Europe and be a footballer. You're going to be brought to Europe to be a slave. We want to stop that happening. If you really do have talent, we want to find you. So I think they do an awful lot of good. I think we tend to look at the headlines. I agree that the figures, the numbers are utterly staggering. But, United, I think, will probably make that money back in shirt sales several times over. Whether it will win them the league, someone was saying the other day, you spend an extra couple of million on a player, and if that gets you the points you need in the Champions League, or gets you an extra round on the FA Cup or whatever, it pays for itself. But we have got to look, and particularly at the FA, I think that's where there is, we've got the Premier League there, and we've got the FA that's kind of in the middle, and the governance of the FA, there are some concerns about that, and we are working with them to reform the governance there, because we do want to make sure that money is passed down to the grassroots. But I meet with the Premier League and the FA and others and the Football League to make sure that we're getting that funding. And you know what, the Brexit could be an opportunity for us, because it's been very easy for clubs to take a third-rate player from Europe and stick them in their third squad. where actually maybe they need to take a British player, maybe somebody at Leek Town to really, and that, you know, just one player from Leek Town getting up into the leagues would be such a bonus for Leek Town in terms of money. So, you know, I think there are ways we can do it. I think we need to look at the opportunities, but I do agree that the sums of money that we talk about are eye-watering.
Okay. Do you ever get bored of politics?
Well, politics is life. Politics is people. You know, I was late for you today, wasn't I? Because the bin wagon was on my road and I couldn't get past it. And the day your bins get collected and the bin wagon being on your road, it's politics, because there's a local councillor who's made that decision. It's everything you do in your day life. Now, most of what I do, actually, is not decisions I take. They're decisions taken by local councils, like the day your bins are collected and whether the roads are swept and the potholes and all those kind of things. They're the things that matter to your daily life, but that's politics.
But so, I guess people must talk to you about it all the time.
Yeah, but you know, if it has to be a way of life. I'm a landlord's daughter. I grew up in a pub. And that's a way of life. You can't ever walk away from the pub. You can never turn around and go, oh, well, we're going to have 2 weeks holiday and forget about it. Because it's your home and it's your way of life. And that's the same with politics. So I kind of grew up always having a way of life rather than a job and sort of feel it's normal.
Do you live local?
I live in Leek, yeah.
Live in Leek. Have you ever been and had a drink in the Blue Mug?
I certainly have, many times.
Okay. Leek Town? Have you been down to watch?
I have. I haven't been enough recently, just because life is as busy as you can imagine. But we do always try and come at least once a season. And we just come on our own. We don't tell you we're coming. We just go and stand in the stalls, in the grandstand, and just watch the match and enjoy it every time.
What do you think?
I was here, in fact, for the fantastic end of season where we managed to get those goals we needed to get into the playoffs. I was there at that match.
Well, you're very welcome, and hopefully we'll see you next season.
I'm sure,
down here.
yeah.
What do you think of the facilities?
I love it. I think it's a great club. I love the fact, you know, well, the best thing is when one of the coaches from Leek Town tells off one of the players from the other side for swearing, because we don't have swearing at Leek Town. I think that's great. It's a proper family club, and I love the fact that it's warm and friendly and welcoming. And you know, of course, you know, it'd be great to have some ladies changing facilities, wouldn't it? And you know, things like that. But these are things to be worked on. It's a brilliant club, and everybody should come and have a look. You know, and the stuff done in the community is just fantastic. My boys have over the years done lots of Leek Town summer schools and holiday clubs and things like that, and they've always loved it.
It's a good endorsement, that, Mr. Chairman. We're happy with that. What's your most embarrassing moment?
Oh gosh. Probably admitting I'd never watched Leek Town football TV.
Okay, greatest moment, can you?
Oh, I think it depends really on whether you think of it in terms, you know, it was having my children is the greatest thing that can happen to you. And, you know, actually introducing the eldest boy to the littlest boy when he was first born, that's the greatest. There's all sorts of achievements you can have in life, but there's nothing better than having your family.
Okay, I'm getting through these now. I need to be careful with this one. Well, we've touched upon it. Women in politics becoming more prominent. Theresa May, Hillary Clinton looks like she's going to be the next president. I was a big fan of the Iron Lady, I've got to say. Any thoughts on women in politics becoming more prominent?
I think it's the best person for the job, isn't it? And you know, you would never. Theresa May has not become Prime Minister because she's a woman. She's become Prime Minister because she's the best person for the job. It is harder for women to get in. You know, there is a sense it's a bit of an old boys club, and you know, sometimes. You know, we've just seen the Labour Party, for example, select their mayors across the country. I don't think they've got a single candidate for the mayoral elections who's a woman, and that's disappointing. But the thing is, each individual selection doesn't say we need to be the one to have the woman. And I don't want women to be there just because they're women. I want women to be there because they're the best. But you know, maybe the men have had a go, and maybe it's time for the women to come in and sort the world out. You know, maybe with Hillary and Angela and Theresa, maybe we might do things
interesting times, yeah, interesting. I've got to ask this, and I don't mean to be disrespectful at all, but the expenses scandal, that's something that probably will never go away. I mean, you put it into the internet, and obviously I've tried to do some research on yourself, and I guess it's been thrown at yourself in the past as well regarding expensive claims. I suppose the question is, what would you say, when people do throw that at you, that you've maybe made excessive claims in the past? What's your view on that?
Well, first of all, I was elected in 2010, and everything that had gone before that, I think we're all judged by what happened by previous administrations. But when I came in, it was a whole new expenses system. You can't get a claim for anything unless you've got a receipt. You can justify and prove that it is a legitimate receipt for your job. We don't get any allowances. There's no like, it used to be £40 a week food that you used to get and things like that, which I can see full well. People would look at that and go, wow, that seems very unreasonable and unfair. But I'm a chartered accountant. I used to audit people's things. I've never claimed for anything that I would never have been happy in my old job to say this is a completely legitimate business expense. I will put it, I will say that this is something that needs to go in your accounts and is acceptable. And I've never claimed for anything that I haven't incurred only because I'm an MP. If it's something that I would spend anyway, that's different. Then I don't claim for it. If it's so for example, I don't claim for mileage within the constituency, because I think, well, I choose to live in Leek. When I go to Biddulph, it's not people in Biddulph's fault that I live in Leek and I travel to Biddulph. I shouldn't be claiming for mileage to get between the two. So I've never claimed mileage within the constituency, for example. I don't claim for, I have a flat I rent in London because I can't get back here. I'd love to every night, but it's just not physically possible. But I don't claim for the council tax, for example, or I don't claim for the heat and the light for there, even though, I'm only paying for that because I'm paying 2 lots of council tax because I have to live in 2 places, 2 TV licences. I always say to people, how many ironing boards do you own? Not many people own 2.
True.
And
Where'd you go with that?
I never claimed that on expenses, I can promise you. So, it is an expensive life. And also I think people want me to do the job. If you look at what does an MP do? Now, do you know what? You could have a local councillor sat here doing this interview with you. You can have a local councillor cut the ribbon and open the new facility. You can have a local councillor do your surgery work. You can have an MEP come and do things for you for the time being till we leave Europe. There's lots of different people who can do things locally, but there's only one person that can vote on behalf of people of the Moorlands in Parliament, and that person is their MP, and you have to be in Westminster to do that. I take that really seriously. That is the job that only I can do. Nobody else can go and do it on my behalf, and that means I need to be in Westminster standing up for the Moorlands and being there in person and making sure I make that vote on your behalf. You might disagree with the vote, but at least I can stand up and explain why I've done it. Now, that means that you are in 2 places, and you could say, and I know some MPs take the view, well, they live in London and they visit their constituencies once a month, they don't live there, they don't have a home there. I've never taken that view. This is my home, this is where I was born, and this is where I want to be, but during the week I have to be in London. That means that there are expenses I incur that others don't.
Well, thank you for your honesty with that answer. Who's the manager of Leek Town?
Oh gosh, that's a very good question. I know it used to be Mr. Ogden.
Yeah, can't answer that one. Anthony Danworth.
I've failed you miserably on that.
Failed miserably there. Okay.
I should never answer quiz questions. That's one of the tricks.
Have you seen the new Leek Town away shirt?
Have I seen the new Leek Town away shirt? I don't know. I have actually.
We need to show.
Take me in the shop.
We'll show you.
Yeah.
Do you support any other football clubs? Well, I've seen your little boy in
I was going to say, I have to admit, it's Manchester City there, yes. And I've seen the new Stoke City away kit that looks very familiar to me.
Yeah, dear, oh dear, true. I've had that at work, the comparison. Okay, I'm getting towards the end now, you'll be pleased to know. What do you find most satisfying about being an MP?
When you can help people, when you can make a difference. Lots of it's frustrating because actually it's not decisions we can take, but just sometimes somebody listens, and that's good.
Question 35, can you swim?
Yes, I can swim.
Random. You got to
I was going to say, you're throwing all sorts at me here.
Do your kids play Pokemon?
No, they don't. They don't, because neither of them have got roaming on their phone. Well, one of them's not even got a SIM card in his phone, and the other one doesn't have roaming, so we won't let them play Pokemon.
Have we got 3 more questions? Yeah, 3 more questions. This is bit of old news, but I thought I'd throw it in. The roundabout in Leek. Do you think it's better now, or do you think it was better?
You know, we're past that now. We've got to move to the future.
Do you
remember this European conversation? There's no point going back.
No.
You know, it's not going to go back to how it was. What happened, and now we've just got to look to the future and make the best.
Fair enough. McDonald's in Leek?
Look, not my decision. I'm very proud when I tell people I have a constituency with no train station, no dual carriageway, no Tesco's and no McDonald's. But, you know, there are some people who might quite like it. So it's for someone else to take that decision, and let's get the best we can for Leek.
Final question. If your husband was asked to pick a fault about yourself, what would he say?
Oh, probably say I didn't know the manager of Leek Town and he told me I should check it.
I think that's fair enough. Karen, thanks very much for coming down here. Like I said at the beginning, we appreciate it, and I appreciate your honesty. You've taken the time out to answer some questions, so thanks very much. And of course, you're very welcome. So, yes, we're going to present you with something.
Oh gosh.
Well, Mr. Chairman's here. We'd like to.
We know you're a very busy lady, so.
Oh, thank you very much.
Next time you come down,
that will go with my little boy's already got one, so this will be the new one for him. And he wears it, you know. He wears his Leek Town scarf whenever there is any sporting event going on, because he says if he wears this, he bought it the day of the playoffs, the day we got into the playoffs, and he said I wore it then, so it must be lucky. So I'll keep wearing it. There you go. Shall I put it on?
Can you put it on? Can you take it to Westminster? Maybe?
Of course.
So you can get a photograph outside the.
I did actually have one that we sent off to Hillsborough. So we sent it off to Liverpool when they did the Hillsborough thing. So there's a Leek Town scarf there as well.
Wonderful. Karen, thanks very much.
That's all right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.